colonists grumbling as treasonous, while colonists believed they were again being stripped of their rights as British citizens. As Mercy Otis Warren wrote, "This inconsiderable duty on teas finally became an object of high importance and altercation. It was not the sum, but the principle that was contested. It manifestly appeared that this was only a financiering expedient to raise a revenue from the colonies by imperceptible taxes." American colonists reacted to these acts with two forms of protest that helped unify them in a way they had not previously been, and increased the chasm between British subjects in Great Britain and America. Non-importation associations were non-political groups of individuals or merchants unified in their efforts to boycott British goods. Committees of correspondence also began to form, creating regular, organized communication between colonies. The phenomenon of us versus them was growing. Still, by the beginning of the 1770s, most American colonists were striving for equality as British citizens rather than independence. The colonies remained relatively ununited states. An incident in Boston on 5th March 1770 caused a shift in that perspective. What became known as the Boston Massacre began as bored children taunting British soldiers on guard duty. With tensions high and both soldiers and Bostonians wondering about the motives of the other, it unfortunately escalated into shots fired and 5 dead colonists. The fact that this was more of a street brawl than a massacre is evinced by the fact that John Adams, future President of the United States, served as defending attorney for the soldiers, who were not found guilty of murder. That truth has been lost to history, as propaganda images of defenseless colonists standing before a firing squad of British soldiers, a popular one engraved by Paul Revere, have replaced it in the minds of many Americans. Yet the accident that created a resentment which emboldened the timid, determined the wavering, and awakened an energy and decision that neither the artifices of the courtier nor the terror of the sword could easily overcome, arose from a trivial circumstance, a circumstance which, but from the consideration that these minute accidents frequently lead to the most important events, would be beneath the dignity of history to record. Americans may have viewed this as a step toward war, but Great Britain was still focused on events closer to home. Unrest in the American colonies was not a high priority, and few seemed to fear escalation. Distance of thousands of miles and confidence in the British Empire created doubt that any serious issues would arise in America. King George III had been 22 years old at his coronation in 1760. He had inherited the greatest empire of the age and was obsessed with retaining it. Intelligent and devout, he worked tirelessly, even acting as his own secretary. He was also unforgiving toward those who disagreed with him and was irritated by disorder. Rebelling colonies were not a problem that King George III was well equipped for coping with through any method but force. With what would later become known as the Boston Tea Party of 1773, the American colonies made another bold step toward independence. The trouble over tea demonstrates another failure of colonists and Parliament to understand each other. While Parliament felt that it was removing unfair duties and providing affordable tea to the American colonies, colonists saw monopolized trade in which they had no voice, as they were forced to purchase tea through the East India Company. The fact that the tea was reasonably priced did not matter. In an effort to establish that the issue was solely with tea, those who carried out the Boston Tea Party, dumping 46 tons of tea into Boston Harbor, did not destroy anything else on the ship. They had even given the captain the opportunity to leave with his cargo intact. They did not break locks, or fixed them when they did, or disrespect the ship's property, but they did dispose of every last leaf of tea on board. Boston was not the only city that refused